today Mr. Abdul Azim Akbar Ali. So Mr. Azim is a technology enthusiast who is actively involved in the science and technology ecosystem. His expertise includes technology, technical and business analysis, technology and business strategy, technology commercialization, project and team management, agile working ways, and emerging technologies. Azim is currently at Mranti as a senior technology analyst, and he oversees technology assessment for the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox, NTIS, and he also is involved as a technical analyst for the MOSTI SRF Fund, spearheaded by Mranti. Azim also focuses on technology commercialization and consultation services for companies to understand their technology and business strategy and analyzing emerging technologies that have commercial potential. Before joining Mranti, Azim was a part of the digital communication industry as a product manager and IT innovations and project lead at Celcom Axiata Sdn Bhd. He was involved in Celcom Enterprise digitalization projects and also managed online self-service channels and e-commerce platform throughout the digital life cycle. His other career experiences include working as an offshore rig data administrator for Velastro Energy Sdn Bhd and as a trainee engineer for Petronas. Azim holds a bachelor and honors bachelor degree in chemical engineering, majoring in environmental and sustainable engineering. He is also a certified Scrum Master awarded by Scrum Alliance. Welcome, Mr. Azim. If you're ready, the center stage is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, let me just share my presentation deck. Okay. You guys able to see my deck?
It's visible. Thank you.
All right. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much, Fadhlan, for the introduction. Quite lengthy introduction. Yeah. I think just high level about myself. Sorry, I think let's go about myself later. So for today, the session was supposed to be how to deliver a good pitch, but we decided to change a bit in terms of the tajuk. Don't mind me if I'm speaking a bit mixed, Malay and English. I think it should be okay, right? Yeah. So because yeah, pitching is basically the tool for you to convey your ideas and your solution in order for you to achieve your goal. So you have to have a really best strategy and structure lah. So for today, since we only have 1.5 hours, so it will be a brief framework. We will explain a bit on the brief framework on how to craft the best structure and also a strategy for the pitch. So for today, first we just run through on the introduction, but maybe you can just skip that, and then we'll run through on the objectives of having a pitch. This would answer the why. Why do you actually have? Why do you actually want to have a pitching for your product or your solution? And then we will go in terms of understanding who would be your pitching audience, in terms of understanding the customer or the audience yang you want to pitch to, and identifying this audience into several personas. And then we would run through in terms of what are the actual pitching elements, what are the criteria or the structures that would create a best pitching structure. And finally, we would explain in terms of how to actually deliver the best pitch. And we will conclude the summary. And after that, my colleague Puan Husna would share a bit more in terms of experience sharing for the task of our role in Mranti lah as senior technology analyst. So yeah, this is just the same wording as just now. I'll just skip this part. But basically, just a short overview. I had experience before this working in digital environment in Celcom, and previously I was lucky to have experience practicing as an engineer lah in offshore punya environment. So a bit here and there, kumpul experience in terms of engineering and also kumpul experience in terms of digital. And currently now in Mranti, I'm in the technology commercialization department. So we are focusing more in terms of how to actually help R&Ds or researchers, research from universities on how to actually commercialize the findings or the research, how to actually change or provide a business roadmap in terms of executing your research into commercialized or commercial activities lah. Okay, so without further ado, let's start in terms of how to have the best pitch. So the first thing that we will cover today is in terms of the objectives of having a pitch itself. So objectives here meaning in terms we want to understand or we want to satisfy the question of why do you actually want to have a pitch. So the first or the main objective that you have to keep in mind is to achieve the targeted outcome of pitching. So every kind of pitch, you have different kinds of pitch. You have pitch for investments. You would have pitch to explain your, for example, if university students, if you join any competitions, they would have pitching sessions for you to explain about your research, for example, or any of your solution. So different pitch have different objectives. So it's your responsibility or your I mean you have to actually know why do you actually want to do a pitch. So understand why the pitching is done in the first place. Examples, for example, funds. You have pitching for requesting funds. You have pitching to request for market access. You have pitching to get approval for regulatory or certifications. Yep. So how do you actually achieve understanding or getting the targeted outcome? You have to attract your audience and also convert them to advocates. So this is a two-step process in terms of the objective. Attracting audience, you have to capture them. You have to capture their interest. You have to provide information yang menarik, information yang would satisfy the audience punya questions lah, especially if they are specific audience in technology punya department or specific audience in researcher punya role. And once you have attract this audience, you can then secure their buy-ins and also actionable steps, and in a way turn them into advocates for your solution itself. So this is why actually you want to do this pitching. And how do you attract your audience and convert them to advocates? You have to deliver information that is you have to deliver information concisely to your target audience. Information that you have, probably you are the subject matter expert of your own solution. Let's say if I were to compare, take an example of a student that is researching about let's say chemical engineering punya project. So you have the information, you have the knowledge, but then it's your job to actually deliver this information concisely to your target audience. You don't want to just bombard them with needless or information yang actually won't make any useful for them as well lah. So this is the three main objectives or why do you actually have to do a pitch. So an analogy yang I would like to share is to actually you can compare having a pitch is actually as having a bridge. So you are having a solution that you have in your in your own place kan. So this pitch is actually a bridge to connect your solutions to your intended goal. So that intended goal may be in getting funds. That intended goal may be in terms of getting awards or making sure your project wins a certain competition in university. It can be any goal lah. But in order for you to achieve your goal, you have to have this pitch as a vessel or a tool, which is a bridge to connect your solutions to the intended goal. And when you identify that this bridge, you have to have a firm direction. If you ada a location you nak pergi, tapi you tak ada direction yang proper, then it will be haywire lah. You akan go kejap nak go kiri, kejap you nak go kanan. And you have to have a strong structure. Structure meaning the bridge itself, you have to have good information. You have to have relevant information. So kalau you ada firm direction, but then the structure of your pitch pun it's not strong, then it won't be useful for you lah. So by having a firm direction, the strong structure, it will provide a path of least resistance. So you would have better chance to achieve your objective. So take note here, I put less resistance. It's not least resistance. There would always be resistance, but it's your job to actually find the pathway with less resistance. Okay, so next we would understand in terms of who are your pitching audience. This one we would explain more in terms of identifying your target audience. Okay. So who are your pitching audience? You have to understand that different people have different needs. Different people have different needs here, meaning to say people from different background. For example, if you take an example, people that want to pitch for university meet competition, the judges or the person yang you want to pitch for, they would have different needs. They would probably want to understand more on your technology. They want to understand more on your research papers, any research papers that you have done. But then if you compare to pitching audience, the audience, if you want to pitch for investment or if you want to pitch for funding, they would probably look more into your business punya part, your business strategy, your financials, all of that. So always keep in mind that different people have different needs, and you have to identify these different needs lah. So how do you do it? First, you have to identify your target audience. So by identifying your target audience, you have to know that different audience from different background would want to know specific information. So like what I mentioned just now. For example, me myself, I'm a technical assessor. So I would really love to understand more on the technology, on the uniqueness, on how do we actually what's the technology to whether it's patent protected and all of that. So different audience have different needs lah. Identifying your target audience and then categorizing them. That would be the second sub-step. So after you have identified your target audience, you have to categorize them. Categorizing, you don't have to be very macam specific lah. So as long as you know the areas of the target audience. So for example, macam people from research background would want to know more about the research detail. People in the investment background would want to know more about investment detail. Okay, so that is the first step, identifying your target audience. Second is to focus on the audience, focus on what the audience wants to hear about the solution. So this ayat ni basically you can summarize this into one word, which is empathize lah. So you have to, after you identify your target audience, you have to empathize with your target audience. Meaning, okay, if I'm in their place, let's say for example, a technical assessment, what would they want to know about my product? And one tool yang I really like to use is this point number 2 here. You step back and visualize. As a blank, I would like to understand the blank by hearing about blank. So by using this tool, you can identify the potential information interested from your targeted audience. So you already identify target audience, then you need to identify the potential information yang they are interested in. So a quick example that we can do here is, okay, I just share a few examples. Audience here, the first one is National Technology and Innovation Sandbox. So this is also one of the grants that me and Puan Husna is looking at. So for the audience, for the audience of National NTIS, the focus area would be more in terms of technology and innovation. But let's say you compare to government or regulatory bodies. Kalau katakan you nak present your solution or your project to government or regulatory bodies as your audience, their focus area would be more in terms of understanding the regulatory hurdles or understanding any certifications that you would be needing. And after you identify the focus area, then you would understand the interested information. So if you translate into the tool just now, as an audience, so as a government or regulatory body, I would like to understand the focus area in terms of, I would like to understand the regulatory or certifications or any hurdles that the company is facing by hearing about the interested information. So one more point for this also. Remember that this is just a tool lah. You don't need to follow this religiously. What this is it helps you to understand your audience, what are the focus areas, and what information that they might need. So that you tak adalah sebab kadang-kadang bila kita in a position where we have the most information about a project, you always have this kind of assumptions that, oh, these people would know what I'm talking about. These people would want to understand more on this and that. You are trying to fit in your narrative into what you believe they want to understand. So that is wrong. You have to understand what they want. Then you have to fit your narrative there. Okay? All right. Next. Okay, so after identifying the who, okay, so sorry, one more analogy I lupa nak explain. In terms of apa direction just now, like I mentioned the bridge kan. So the who, the audience ni, identifying your target audience would be the main compass in terms of identifying the direction. Sebab katakan you dah ada your, you ada your goal, identifying your pitching audience will actually give you a better understanding on where to go, on what kind of information that I have to, what direction that I have to follow in terms of my pitching. Okay, next would be in terms of what are the elements or what are the pitching elements consist of. So there are two things. This one pun I'm explaining really high level lah. Nanti later on, Puan Husna would share a bit more in terms of how you can connect with us for consultations. But this is just a high level lah for you to understand. The first pitching element that you would need to know is the information. So information component here is a set of factual and descriptive information based on the solution or based on your project. So this is the first pitching element lah that you have to know. This the examples here that I put is the normal examples that you always have in the pitching structure lah. You would always have the problem statement. Problem statement, you have to understand or you have to explain on the issues that you are facing, whether it's a severe issue, what are the affected parties, what is the existing solution, how does the solution comes in. So it gives understanding lah in terms of is there an actual problem that the project or the solution is targeting towards. An objective, of course, what are you trying to solve? This 2 points ni sound simple tau, problem statement and objective, but based on my experience memang a lot of entrepreneurs, startup, researchers all it's not that diorang tak tahu, diorang tahu, it's just bila dia tak sure yang oh orang ni tahu kot this problem my solution would solve this problem. That is where it will be a disconnect lah in terms of what you want to sampaikan in terms of the solution and what your audience would understand. Then the next one is the solution and technology. This one is of course in terms of identifying your solution, how does it work, what's the technology focus area, what's the underlying technology that you're using. So this one would be more everyone pun akan want to know about solution lah, but probably someone who is assessing you based on technical criteria would be much more focused on this one. The next one, unique value proposition. So this one is basically your USP or unique selling point, or what makes your product different with the other products in the market right now. The next one is the market study. So market study ni is normal lah. You have to understand how to do markets. It's not normal lah. I mean every of these components here akan ada a lengthy explanation lah in terms of how you actually want to find it. But for time purpose, I'm just going to put a few of the main things here first. So market study like macam tadi I mentioned, market study you have to do market assessment. You have to identify what market yang you nak go in. You have to identify the categorization of the market. You have to identify how do you actually want to capture the market. What's your serviceable, addressable punya market, total addressable market, all that kind of stuff. I think probably a few of you already have some kind of information lah in terms of how to do market study. Next one is competitor analysis. Of course, you have to compare whatever product yang you're trying to solve or whatever solution that you're bringing in with the things in the market. One thing yang it's a pet peeve lah actually, because sometimes people that wants to present their solution, they tend to think that their solution is memang one of a kind and it's first in the world, things like that. Of course, yes, undeniably, you are the subject matter expert. You know much more rather than the orang yang assess you in terms of your specific solution lah. Macam for example, if you tanya I pasal radiation punya treatment ke if you ask specific information about ni, memang ni lah, we don't have that ni. But this one, if katakan you macam go into a presentation and cakap, oh, you are the first in the world, ni. And then I, as a technical assessor, I can do just a quick Google search in my phone and find like hundreds of research papers. I mean, of course, research papers would be different with product yang actually commercialized. But then it gives a picture. I mean, it paints a picture where you are trying to undermine the assessors punya credibility, not credibility, but inilah, meaning you nak try to manipulate. I wouldn't say lie. It's in terms of how you present that data. You not try to show that, oh, this one we are the first in the world. Tapi after a quick search, we get identify that, oh, you are not the first in the world, or you have several competitors within the same space. So itulah, try to include also competitor analysis, even if you tak ada any specific competitor within your space. It's okay. Find competitor within the area, or within the technology segments that you are working on in terms of the solution. All right. Next one is the business plan, financials. This one is more in terms of the investment part. So it's a really big subject with the business strategy. Some of you might have learned how to do a business canvas model to identify certain things, macam how do you want to go to market, what's the marketing plans and all of that. So that will also be needed, especially in terms of investment funding or investment pitching. And then next one is blockers and needs. This one also something yang a lot of people yang trying to present actually missed out. I mean, they are so keen in terms of explaining what solution that I've been doing, what awards I've dah menang, siapa yang I dah jumpa. But then they miss to actually explain to you what you actually need. Kenapa you present this solution? Apa yang you perlukan? Do you need help in terms of funding? Do you need help to market your product? Do you need help to do more research? So it's the simple things lah yang actually akan tangkap your presentation from a statement, objective, blockers and needs, things like that. And the last one, teams and organization. This one is, of course, you have to understand or you have to share your team structure, whether you have the credible punya team members with the relevant skills and skill sets, and also any organization or partners that you're working with, other universities, other companies. So it will give a much more stronger punya justifications lah, in terms of what is your, I mean, what's the differentiating factor for your solution and other competitors. So like what I mentioned, these components ni, it's not mutually exclusive. Akan ada other components here, but it would actually be under the same umbrella lah. So that's why for pitching ni, it's, you don't have to be very rigid lah. Macam contoh business plan, tak lah, you kena ada business model canvas. Tak, it's okay. As long as you can explain, as long as I as an assessor tahu your business strategy, your business plan, how do you want to make money, whether you have to make money or not. So it's as long as that questions are answered, and it's okay lah. So yeah, that is the first pitching element, information component that you have to remember. Nanti siapa tak sempat tengok buat screenshot nanti boleh ingat sikit. Second one, alright. Second one is the story flow. This one is something yang also a lot of presenters or pitching punya team members actually miss. You have to understand kalau you ada information yang very very detail pun, if you ada okay, let's take an example, a manual untuk you operate a microwave compared to a novel or a short story book, which one would be more easier to read? Of course lah, the short story ni, because you ada a flow. Even though the microwave punya handbook tu, you have much more information, what technology dia guna, what components, what the buttons do, what the kalau rosak kena buat apa semua. Tapi if you don't have a proper story flow to show this information, to structure all of this information, then it's no use lah. Meaning you are just spewing out information, and people yang dapat information tu pun tahu, kenapa saya kena tahu benda ni, kenapa, what's the I mean, why do I need to know this information lah? Dia tak faham. So a simple way to resolve this is just using a plot diagram. This plot diagram is the normal plot diagram yang apa uh, uh, storylines usually use lah. There's the conflict is the beginning, then the part would be the rising action and also the climax, and would be the falling action and resolution. So introduction was to introducing about the about your product, about your company, what you're doing. Conflict would be in terms of identifying your objectives and identifying the problem that you are facing, what kind of communities are affected, severe the issue is, and how the solution is actually done in the current method. Then when you go to the middle part, the rising action part is where you explain more information about the product. How do you actually use it? What kind of technology you use? How would this affect the communities apa yang mentioned beforehand? How would this be different with the existing solutions that you have at hand? Then when you reach your upper apex tu, your peak tu, dekat climax tu, that is where you want to capture your audience lah. Meaning you nak bagi tahu dia the best part. For example, you dah apa, okay lah, because researchers or universities, of course, you want to cerita pasal your awards, join, and then probably you have some validation that you have done, you have apa, go in the ground, dapat people punya feedback, oh, this product memang orang nak guna, memang apa, people are interested to buy, or people already have buy, you have already have for sale. So that kind of information is where you put macam the capture lah. And then after you explain about your apa the main things there, that is where you go to the falling action. Falling action ni bukannya maksudnya dia dah jadi boring ke apa, tak. It's just the flow. You have to understand the flow lah. Meaning you nak bercerita, you kena faham mukadimah, you kena faham the steps, you kena faham point of your cerita, then you kena turun lah up to your resolution. So falling action tu would be more in terms of apa you perlukan, what kind of blockers you are facing, do you need help in terms of research, do you need help in terms of funding, what kind of apa needs lah that you actually need, want to resolve by doing this page itself. And then of course resolution would be the end of your presentation. You ada a CTA, or CTA is a call to action, but basically you can just CTA tu you can use something else, probably call to action in terms of yes, why we need this funding. By getting this funding, kita akan dapat apa much more revenue return in the apa next years, or probably we can have apa more researchers or apa graduate apa research yang would be hired under the project, things like that. So these are the two components lah. You have to keep in mind these two things to make sure yang your apa this is where the structure of the bridge comes in lah. These two things is the structure of the bridge. Kalau you tak ada this structure, then you walaupun you dah tahu your audience, your direction, tapi your structure tak bagus, so your presentation akan jadi apa a bit ni lah. Information component, story flow. So that would be the elements. Okay. Last would be in terms of how to actually deliver the best pitch. So based on the things yang I've explained just now, in terms of why do you want to do it, who do you want to target, and also what are the elements. So we simplified it into a 5-step process lah, how to deliver the best speech. First, understand, identify your audience and empathize. So this is an example lah yang we showed. Angel investor tu is basically investor yang akan put in or pump in money into your solution. Katakan if you are startup or you are a research yang probably already gone to commercialization, and your research ada potential to make money. So this angel investor akan put in a sum of money for you to actually start a business, and then dia akan dapat back whether you pay them back in the cash ataupun equity ke, that would be different story lah. But then identify lah kenapa you nak buat you have to identify dekat siapa yang you nak buat pitch ni. Is it to an angel investor? Is it to a technical assessor of a competition? Is it to a government official to get regulatory punya hurdles resolved? So after you identify this personas, I like to use the word personas lah, so that you can actually empathize on the persona itself. You have to, after you identify, you have to know the possible information interested based on the different personas. Like what we mentioned earlier lah, technical assessor, probably dia nak tahu more on the technology part. Government official, probably dia nak tahu more on the scope, on your objective, on whether there are risks, things like that. So the tool you have to remember as an audience, I would like to understand the focus area by hearing about the interested information. So okay, this tool I just want to short punya point here. Jangan nanti if dalam pitch session tu you put this tool pula. Remember this is just a tool for you tau to get your creative thoughts or get your creative juices flowing so that you tahu what kind of audience yang you nak target. You don't need to actually put as an angel investor. I like to understand the ni tak payah. It's just for your own internal thing use lah to identify. Okay, so after you dah understand, second would be the information. So information ni is to identify and create information components based on your personas just now lah. So examples yang I put here, angel investor. If I want to invest in your company, I really want you to make money from the company. Of course, I nak tahu your market study. Have you done a market study? What's your business strategy? What's your competitor analysis? Ada competitor yang lagi better with you or tak kisahlah if ada some competitor better with you, but you have a strategy to overcome that or to capture bigger market, and then that's great. And then your revenue generation, and then technical assessor, of course, will be more on pattern strategy, unique proposition, solution. So based on all this, ni example tau. So you use it based on your needs lah. So it doesn't matter if you are a student, it doesn't matter if you are a lecturer, it doesn't matter if you are a startup punya founder. You can use this framework. It's a framework to help you to guide your pitch. So after you dah identify this information, ni would be let's take an example technical assessor. Kalau technical assessor, the ones yang I put here, it doesn't necessarily need to be these 4 solutions only, right? So technical assessor would also want to know about the objective. Technical assessor would also needs to know about the funding. It's just that what I'm trying to explain here is that the focus would be more on solution, or focus would be more on strategy, things like that. Okay. So after you dah identify the information, the third step would be the story. So remember the components just now, yang elements yang we explained just now. The second part tadi, identifying the information components. The third part would be story flow. So use the story flow as a basis to structure all of your information components. So previously you already identified your pitching audience. You already identified the information components. Then you just plug it back to the story flow. So problem statement, objective, of course you nak cerita awal-awal. You nak orang tu faham, you nak orang tu tahu kenapa actually you want to do this pitch. You want to understand the problem yang you are facing. Why do you do the solution that you are doing? And then in the middle part would be more on the solution, the market study, and then dekat the apex of the ni here would be the revenue generation, business strategy, things yang yang akan really pique the interest of the pitching audience lah. I'm just checking on the time, takut terlebih. Okay, so make sure your information components and your story flow, the combination of both should satisfy the objective of pitching. Always remember this. Always come back to your objective of pitching. Kalau I mean macam ni lah, you buat satu benda, of course you nak tahu kenapa you buat benda tu. Tak ada you buat benda saja. It's the same thing. You want to do a pitch, you have to understand the objective of doing the pitch. Why do you actually want to do the pitch? Then you can susun this information components and story flow to make a much more cohesive story lah, so that the technical assessor or the researcher yang dengar tu akan jadi, oh ni solution dia nak buat, oh this is the why they need this the successful stories yang dia dah buat, oh this is the funding or the help that they need. Point number 3, take a step back from your role and try to view the project as an outsider. Always practice this in whatever you do. Because I already mentioned this before, if you ada a really in-depth information or in-depth punya study on certain subjects, it would be really easy for you to have tunnel vision tau. It's not that you It's not that you intentionally do this. But sometimes bila you dah focus more on one area, benda lain tu akan jadi a bit more ni. So take a step back from your role as a solution provider, as a architect or as a technology punya provider. Try to view the project as an outsider. Kalau I tak tahu apa-apa pasal project ni, and then I dengar pasal problem statement, pasal objective, and then pasal solution. Oh, does it make sense? Does it gives a story of telling me what the project is about, what the solution is about, and what the project needs? If yes, then it's good. If tak, try to get this feedback and be open to change. Jangan takut untuk ubah-ubah your pitch deck. That is why the way that we are presenting this is based on components. Bila you dah ada problem statement, the information takkan berubah. You dah ada objective, information tak berubah. It's just a matter of how you play around with the information. So get feedback and be open to change it lah so that people understand what you are trying to pitch about. Number 4 is design. So design is in terms of revise the components and allotted time. This one is also really important. Kadang-kadang bila you nak present about your solution, you have 10 minutes, tapi you nak try macam cram everything and you akan exceed probably like 50 minutes. Tapi when you try to put everything, you actually present nothing. Sebab macam, I tak faham you cerita pasal teknologi, tapi you cerita pasal laju sangat or you cerita terlalu detail and then tiba-tiba you jump on other things and then you dah makan masa. So, benda yang simple tapi banyak orang selalu ada macam kesusahan lah dekat benda ni. So, bila you dah identify these components, if you see the difference in the colour yang I put, just an example lah. So, previously, contoh you dah identify solution, pattern strategy, unique proposition. So, probably to save time, you can just lump up together solution and technology and also pattern strategy. It doesn't necessarily need to, you don't actually need to explain to me your in-depth punya pattern punya number, what's the pattern punya information, tak payah. It's just that, okay, we have this pattern, we have strategy to register trademark or something in the future, then that's good enough so that I tahu apa yang nak tu. Competitor analysis and unique proposition, also the same. You don't need to actually do it in the separate punya lah if you can combine it. If tak boleh combine, tak apa. But if you can combine and reduce your allotted time, then that's good. So the next one, have a streamlined information structure. This one would be more in terms of your formatting lah, streamlined information structure. Information structure here means how do you convey the information. It could be in terms of wording sahaja, macam contoh tulis perenggan panjang-panjang, which is not advisable lah. So that's why you have to have proper information types. You kena ada gabungan, a mixture of both. You have to have wording, you have to have images, you have to have numbers. Make your presentation interesting so that people tengok pun, oh, dia tak adalah sakit mata. People tengok je, dia tahu apa points yang you nak trying to get across. Fonts, color, standardization. This one is also, itulah, dia takkan kacau your solution or your product pun. Katakan you tak buat proper font or color or standardization or branding, tak kacau pun, your solution will still be your solution. But then, like what I mentioned lah, your tool, your bridge would be a worse off bridge than other people lah. So other people tu walaupun it's a worse solution, they have a better chance to convey the information. So in a way, you are macam really giving them an advantage over you. So benda-benda simple macam ni kadang-kadang macam, malas lah design ni, tak apa. Yang penting dia tahu solution kita. Yes, betul. Tapi the other people yang ada slide yang cantik tu, they would have a slight advantage over you lah. So if you're okay with that, then it's okay. Tapi this is a tips yang you have to remember lah in terms of the design. And number 3, good idea to include appendix as additional reference material. So appendix here is also related to point number 1 lah. Solution, for example. Kalau kata you have key points in terms of identifying the solution, then that's good. Jangan try to cram in all information. Kalau you ada information macam pattern, description ke apa ke, tak apa, masuk letak in appendix. So whatever questions that comes later, meaning you dah cerita high level about the solution and technology, I already understand high level. So if I have any further questions, I tanya you time Q&A and you ada that document dekat appendix, then that will be really, oh, dia ni bagus, dia dah prepare. they explain to me high level solution technology, but then he also they already have the document at hand in terms of explaining. So that is why appendix is really important lah. Appendix jangan letak benda pelik-pelik macam apa gambar ke. I mean boleh lah. Use it so that it would give advantage to you. Use whatever yang you have in the pitch as an advantage to you. Jangan just letak information just for the sake of being there. We'll always remember that lah. So this one is just an example yang I pick up. This is actually a pitch deck I made in 2019. Yeah. It's for app mobile application for you to report. So the thing yang I nak show here is in terms of the punya design. You walaupun I'm an engineering background, tapi you kena try to belajar lah benda-benda simple macam branding colours, logo punya colours, ada some sort of macam continuation lah in terms of your slide, and then your font semua cantik, your colours tu tak ada yang colour yang macam warna pelik-pelik sangat. And then the business model, for example lah, you bagi tahu clearly what's your business model, what kind of money you can do, market size, you bagi tahu the numbers and also the information, and always remember to put in your citations lah. Katakan if you have any numbers yang you get from any website ke from Google, just put the citations there to make it more credible. And the design part, the color part lah, you have to keep in mind. Okay, and then the last one is the pitch itself. So by following all of the steps number 1 to steps number 4, you would already have the best structure for you to do your pitch. So bila you dah ada best structure, you would have the confidence to present your solution. Some people usually diorang okay je nak present, okay je nak bercakap, tapi bila cakap benda yang dia tak tahu ataupun cakap benda yang what am I explaining about? Betul ke apa yang cakap ni? That's why it's always good to always have a good structure for your pitch, then the confidence will come. And also be comfortable. Jangan be too nervous. The assessor pun is just people lah. Jangan, I mean of course lah akan ada people yang akan tanya soalan yang ni, but then just be comfortable lah. Don't need to be a robot macam baca ni. As long as you tahu what you want to pitch, you tahu your objective of your pitch and can clearly convey what you have in mind on your pitch deck. Second, be humble. Sebab audience usually they would have experience juga in terms of your focus area. So it will be really good if you can be humble lah. I mean, it's not that you macam rendah ni ke apa. It's just you explain the information. Jangan macam oh ni oh tak tahu ke pasal ni, tak tahu ke. Dia dah jadi macam a bit it would create a not so friendly environment lah. Akan jadi much more macam oh I know better than you or something like that. So macam try to be share information yang relate. You need to show that you know much more about than other people within a specific subject, because memang that is something yang memang betul pun. You are the one that doing solution. Of course you would know much more. But itulah, try to people yang dengar your pitch ni, in a way they will also assess your soft skills or how do you actually present. So that is also in a way criteria jugalah. Macam oh dia ni, my gut feeling says that oh dia ni akan be a bit hard to work with. Dah jadi susah. So the next one, number 3, be attentive. This one also something yang you dah tahu banyak sangat, you dah hafal, okay ni solution I ni, teknologi I ni. Tapi bila I tanya, oh you tahu boleh tak explain ni? Dia akan explain benda yang lain daripada yang tanya. It's something simple lah. Be attentive. Apa yang orang tu tanya, jawab apa yang orang tu tanya. Kalau tak tahu, cakap tak tahu. Information ni I don't have yet at hand, but based on my understanding, this. That's okay. Doesn't need to be a crafted lie ke apa ke. Which comes us to point number 4. Be honest. Don't try to cheat or manipulate information. This one pun memang a lot of times lah. Macam you try to cheat macam mana pun, nanti when people would do your macam follow up punya checking of your facts ke apa, if whatever yang you cakap time tu you confident, tapi punya benda tu you just macam just try to manipulate or cheat the information, dah it will be macam automatically no lah from us also in terms of doing your assessment. Last is be aware of the time. So always remember people bagi time tu is that for you to structure your thoughts, structure your clarification apa yang you need to share tu lah. So katakan if you macam contoh you given 5 or 10 minutes to explain about the solution. Jangan try to cram in all of the information. Understand the objective first. Kenapa I nak do this pitch? Apa yang I am trying to resolve? Explain more on that part. Be aware of the time lah. Jangan explain everything and in the end nothing is conveyed. So that is the 5 steps lah. Understand information, story, design and also pitch. So yep. Summary, how to deliver the best pitch. First, of course, understand who are your pitching audience. This will give you a direction lah, your compass. Where do I want to go? Siapa yang I have to focus on during my pitching session. Next, identify what are the pitching elements, which is the 2 elements just now, the information components and the story flow. Information components, you can do it based on your first step. After you are identifying your pitching audience, you identify what are the pitching elements based on your audience. And then the third thing, the third way, for you to have the best structure and strategy, is the 5 step lah. Understand information, story, design, and also pitch. So that would be all from my part today. Puan Husna would continue in terms of sharing experience for how actually we are doing technical assessment. So if you have any questions, you can just put it out in the chat first. I'll read it out, and then probably after we end the session, we can have like 10 or 15 minutes to answer any questions lah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Azim. That was really